MMA Boxing Talk here. This is a post-fight video for Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier. It took place last night. Jon Jones got the third round TKO over Daniel Cormier. First guy to ever stop Daniel Cormier. And Jon Jones is also the first guy to ever beat Daniel Cormier. The one and only. The only person to ever beat Daniel Cormier is Jon Jones. And before I get into it, I want to give Daniel Cormier his props. He is a true champion. Um, he's a class act. I know sometimes he would get over emotional with the Jon Jones saga, but he's a stand-up guy, and he's a true legend of the sport. He really is. So I just wanted to give him his credit, and I was happy Jon Jones gave him credit and gave him his props in the post-fight interview in the octagon. I thought that was very classy. Went over and gave him a kiss on the head. Just a lot of respect. I like seeing that. Now, Jon Jones. Where do you start? I think where you start is he is the greatest of all time. It's really tough to debate that now. It's pretty well undisputed, irrefutable that he is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Like, his resume is definitely the best we've ever seen in the UFC. Um, the only guy I could really think of is maybe Fedor Emelianenko. His resume might be just as good, but Jon Jones did it. The way he did it, being 20 years old, taking up MMA at 20, and by the time he was 23, he was the champion in, at that time, the most stacked division in the UFC. Um, I mean, you know, Fedor was doing this. He was training. He started way before 20 years old. So Jon Jones, and he still is the greatest talent we've ever seen. Like, it's truly phenomenal. All this talk of ring rust, having one fight in the last 2.5 years, all this talk of steroid accusations, that he won't be the same fighter, and the OSP fight was the first time he ever fought clean, and all this stuff. And personally, I never subscribed to that. I never really bought into that. And maybe he did take steroids back in the day. I'm not sure, but all I can say is under USADA testing, he just had one of his best performances against one of his toughest opponents and stopped them um, under USADA. So the people that are accusing Jon Jones of, having taken steroids his whole career. What case do you have now? You got to give him his credit. Under USADA, one of the best performances of his career, and the records that he's on the cusp of breaking for UFC title fight wins. So wins in a title fight, the record is George St. Pierre has 12, and Jon Jones now has 11. So one more title defense for Jon Jones, and he ties George St. Pierre for most title wins in the UFC. And I believe Anderson Silva has the most consecutive wins in the UFC, which is 16 in a row. Jon Jones now has 14. But of course, Jon Jones really, the loss to Matt Hamill was bullshit. So in a way, Jon Jones should be at like 20, 22 fight win streak, but legitly, two more wins and he ties Anderson Silva. Three more and he'll actually legitly have that record for most consecutive wins in the UFC. But he's only 30 years old. 30. He's just entering the prime of his fighting career. He had the luxury of being able to preserve his body tremendously the last few years, only having one fight. And OSP, I think, hit him only one time in that fight. He hit him clean one time. So Jones has taken very little damage. He's taken that 2 years to work on his, refine his skills, and it showed. His hands, his boxing, it looked the best I've ever seen Jon Jones. His hands were great last night, throwing beautiful, hooks and straights over the top. long, extended, powerful punches. He came out very aggressively in the beginning. That's something, we don't really. Jon Jones likes to take his time a little bit, and he came out. He came out and made a statement in the first round, and I thought Cormier did well at the end of the first round. Jones still won that first round, but Cormier won the second round, just like the first fight. Cormier won. I thought in the first fight, I thought Cormier won the second round, and he won it again. And he won it again last night. So, and I told my buddies right before the third round, I said, because we were talking about a third round stoppage before the fight, and I said, could you imagine after the momentum going into the third round, the momentum was with Cormier at that point. He did well at the end of the first, and then he won that second round. The momentum was all in his favor. And I told my buddies, I'm like, it's 1-1. The rounds are 1-1, and it's a super close fight. And Jones is he's getting tagged, and the momentum's in Cormier's favor. Like I said, a finish now in the third round would be really a statement, really something else. And sure enough, he got it. And it was a little bit late of a stoppage, but that's better than it being premature, So, I'm happy to see Jones back on top. I know he's a fuck up, but he's an amazing talent. The UFC does need him, and the prospect of him fighting Brock Lesnar would would be really exciting, But I still want to see him fight a rematch Gustafsson first. If he could rematch Gustafsson and get past him, then go after Brock, I'd love it. I'd really love it. And just someone, I can't remember where I read this, but the rumor is Cain Velasquez is going to get the next title shot against Stipe. That's going to be a great fight. If Cain Velasquez happens to win, I could definitely see Jon Jones versus Cain Velasquez. That would be Jones. You could tell not that interested in the Stipe fight right now. And he made a good point. Stipe, the casual fans, they don't know Stipe. And Jon Jones is going to get way more money fighting a guy like Brock Lesnar and maybe a Cain Velasquez if he gets past Stipe. But but that fight could happen later down the road. You'd never know. If Stipe, stays champ for the next 2-3 years, and Jon Jones still the man, by then, that fight could definitely happen in the future. 2-3 years from now, who knows? But as of right now, I think Gustafsson or Lesnar makes sense. And I don't even know if Lesnar's going to want this fight. He said any place, any time. He's going to have to go through USADA this time. I can't see them giving him an exemption and starting him late because you're supposed to start 4 months before your fight. You with USADA testing, and Lesnar, they gave him a pass on that, so he wasn't getting tested this whole time. But anyway, that's it for this one though. If you liked the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MA Boxing Talk 1. Peace.